Okay, so I realize this paper might be a little bit difficult to read, so the exact measurements will be listed down below. To start off, I chose a mason jar to keep my starter in, and realized after the first few days it would be much easier to do in a deli container, which you see me switch to in day 6. And in further thought, it is much easier to use a new container each feeding. Instead of removing all but the amount of discard I need, I can take what I need and start it in a new clean deli container, which is what I do for my feedings now. That being said, if you choose to use the same jar, weigh the jars so that you can hit your target weight each day. If you're going to use a new container, there's no need to weigh it, just simply add the amount needed for each day. According to the Encyclopedia of Food Microbiology, it is said that the oldest sourdough bread dates back to 3700 BCE, excavated in Switzerland. But the origin of sourdough fermentation relates to the Fertile Crescent and in Egypt, where the oldest known starter is said to have originated from a 4,500-year-old clay pot. Now, we know that flatbreads date back nearly 30,000 years ago, but we don't really know when the first leavened bread came about. So the theory that I buy into the most is that at some point, someone left some flatbread dough out, and some of the wild yeast spores in the air mixed with the dough, which caused it to rise and create sourdough bread as we know it today. A sourdough starter is a live fermented culture of fresh flour and water. Once combined, the culture will begin to ferment and cultivate the natural yeasts found in the flour and in your environment. Once activated, these microorganisms produce carbon dioxide bubbles, which cause your starter to rise. That carbon dioxide needs to escape, so we're going to loosely put our lid on here so that it can. Now on to day 2 and 3. We're going to take the weight of the jar plus 70 grams, add 50 grams of rye flour, 50 grams of all-purpose flour, and 115 grams of warm water. Now you should see a little bit of action, a little rise, a little fall from overnight in our day 1 feeding. Now we're going to remove all but the weight of our jar plus 70 grams. So for me in this case, with the weight of my jar at 435 plus 70 grams, I'm going to remove all of my discard until I reach 505 grams. Now I'm going to add 50 grams of my rye flour, 50 grams of all-purpose flour, and 115 grams of warm water, ideally 90 degrees. Fahrenheit, that is. For days 4 and 5, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're still going to start with the same weight of our jar plus 70 grams, and in my case, that's that 505 grams. We're going to add 50 grams of our rye flour, 50 grams of our all-purpose flour, but this time we're going to only add 100 grams of our warm water. This will give us a 100% hydration starter. On day 6 is when I decided to switch to a deli container. So I weighed my deli container at 29 grams and reconfigured my equation. So my 29 grams of my container plus 50 grams of my starter this time gives me a total of 79 grams. I'm going to add to that 50 grams of rye flour, 50 grams of all-purpose flour, and 100 grams of warm water. I made sure to cut a little slit in my lid so that my carbon dioxide has somewhere to escape. And then finally, our day 7 feeding. We're going to take the weight of our container, in my case 29 grams, plus 25 grams of starter, giving me a total of 54 grams. Then I'm going to add 50 grams of rye, 50 grams of all-purpose, and 100 grams of warm water. Now don't go throwing away this discard. It's usable, plenty of flavor there. Check out my video on sourdough Bavarian pretzels. I'll put a link at the end of this video for you. If you're going to be using your starter daily to make breads, then leave it at room temperature and continue the day 7 feeding cycle each day. If you're a weekend baking warrior, or even an every now and again baker, then place your starter into your refrigerator and feed it once a week or as needed on those heavier baking weeks.